Now we start recording, and I will also enable note taking. Hopefully it will take our notes automatically.
Oh, it takes note automatically. So should I? So it's just there's going to be a transcript, right, and a summary or something afterwards.
It's also it will be also meeting note based on the transcript, but less this meeting. You can continue to take note, and we can evaluate the quality of that.
That sounds good. Let's do that. So I'll do as usual. I'll share again the my notes doc so that I can collaborate on those. Oh, the chat is here. Sorry, just unfamiliar with the UI. Right. Okay, so I added May 14th item, the notes. And cool. So we'll start the meeting as usual, where just trying to figure out the right. So we're going to go around the room and build the agenda. So I'll go in the order of what I have in the people tab. Right. So we'll go over in the list in order, and that's how we build the agenda. So if this is the first time you're here, I'll go call your name. You quickly state your name, who you work for, if you feel comfortable sharing, and what you want to talk about today, or like a topic you'd like to hear about or bring up. And it's totally okay to be a fly on the wall for this meeting and just be listening in. So I can start. I'm Julien. I work for Datadog. Today I'm interested in seeing the updates on the various projects we have ongoing, including variant and other things. And next on my list, I have Adam Reeve.
Hey, hi, I'm Adam. I work for G Research on open source software, including maintaining Parquet Sharp.NET Parquet library, but yeah, just here to listen today.
Daniel?
Yeah, my name's Dan Weeks, and I'm with Databricks, and mostly interested in the type support, all the types that are going on. Thanks.
Poco.
I think we're going alphabetically. My name is Foko Driesprong. I also work for Databricks and also interested in the new types, just to catch up like what's going on.
We are going alphabetically. I'm using the contributors tab here, and it is sorted alphabetically. So that's what we're doing from now. Jeff.
Hey, I'm Jeff Plaisance. I work at Snowflake. Two topics I'd like to discuss are faster numeric encodings in Parquet and how maybe get something added there, and potentially changing the footer format of so that you don't have to parse the entire thing in order to find specific columns.
Nice. I think both are going to interest a lot of people in the group. Jiaying.
Hi everyone, I'm Jiaying. I'm a master student at CMU, and I'm currently working on the REST API for reading and creating environment. I'm under Andrew's guidance, and I'm here to listen and learn from you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Meng Meng.
Hi everyone, I'm Ming Chen. I work for Snowflake. I'm managing the ML and scan group at Snowflake. We're generally interested in like data format, encoding scheme, and everything related to that. I'm new to the group, so I'm just gonna listen and learn this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Micah.
Hi, Micah. I work at Databricks, and mostly just listening today.
Neil.
Hi, I'm Neil. I'm at Snowflake. I'm mostly listening about the types today.
Roke.
Hi, my name is Roke. I'm Adam's colleague. Mostly listening, curious about footer work, especially for wide schema metadata, but nothing for the agenda.
Ron.
Okay. Hello, I'm Ron from Alibaba Group. I'm a newcomer here, so I'm a listener. Just learn from you. Okay.
Welcome.
Alibaba Group.
Welcome. Russell.
Hey everyone, I'm Russell. I'm at Snowflake. I don't have anything specific today. I also am listening in from an iceberg perspective.
Ryan.
Hey everyone, I'm Ryan Blue. I work at Databricks. I wanted to give a quick heads up on a change that went in for Geotypes, as well as talk a little bit about the current state of variant in the Parquet Java implementation. And then, yeah, I'm interested in the new types and better footer work as well.
Good. Sai, and please correct me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, I am Sai Pawan. I work for Snowflake. I am here today to listen on topics related to data types, particularly.
To what? Sorry.
Data types, related to data types. Yeah.
Sounds good. Talat.
Hi, this is Talat. I'm working at Google. I don't have anything for agenda. I just here for the listening.
And Vincent.
Hey, my name is Vincent. I'm from Google. I work on the BigQuery. We do table formats and the data formats federation. Parquet is one of them. Yeah, my colleague invited me to this meeting. I'll just listen and hear some new updates from Parquet, and I may ask a question or two. And good to see you, Micah.
Welcome. Sorry, this little heart animation is cute. So okay, so we have so I think there's three things, right? There's we talked about new numeric encoding, and that's specifically Jeff. The footer format, the new footer, I think got a couple of times, and the types in general. For the what order do we want to do things? We can do footer, numeric encoding, types. Is there anything else we want to? Am I missing anything else from that list?
I think that the geo and variant update, at least on the Java side, are very quick. So we might want to just bust those out, unless everyone has discussion points about it. I really just wanted to give a status. So
that sounds good to me. Let's do that.
Yeah, quick heads up on geotypes. We recently merged another change to the spec to clarify how to handle NaN values. Basically, NaN values, because they are problematic when you have them as a lower or upper bound, at least in Java and potentially other languages, comparisons are difficult because any comparison returns false with a NaN value. So, if you rely on greater than, or not greater than or equal to, meaning less than, you can get yourself into some trouble. So we clarified the spec to remove NaN values from all lower and upper bounds calculations and specify what happens if you don't have non-NaN values for dimensions in your bounding boxes. It's like a one-line change, but just be aware that that went in. That matches what we did in Parquet Iceberg as well. It's the exact same wording. So if you have any questions, please reach out to Gia, Zion, or myself. Then the quick update on Parquet Java with the variant types is that we got the encoding, both the builder and the decoding into its own module. We are now working on the first implementation end-to-end with an object model, and that's Avro. The approach that we're taking right now is that we're building converters that can be used in any object model that produce byte buffers for the encoded metadata and encoded data. And then what you would do is you would have a regular converter into the representation that is expected for a given object model. So in Avro, we simply pass the 2 byte buffers once they are reconstructed into an Avro record and return that record. So that is ongoing, and we also have an open PR for the write path as well that will shred given a explicit Parquet schema. So if you're interested in that work, I'd encourage you to take a look at those PRs. I think the variant reader one is looking good, but we're still refactoring it, not for correctness, but for maintainability and things like that. That is PR 3212 if you're interested in taking a look. And then after that, we will be working on getting the writer implementation in.
Sorry, can you repeat the number of the PR?
PR 3212 on the Parquet Java repo.
Okay.
Yep. And thank you to everyone who's taken a look at this work and making it happen. It's really great to see us getting so close. So thanks.
Thank you. That sounds good. And everyone, feel free to add links to the relevant things in the notes. Any question on this before we move on to the next topic? Or anything else anybody wants to add to an update on that? So if not, so the 2 discussion. So let's start with the new footer discussion, and after that we can talk about numeric encodings. Oh, that's, you were raising your hand. That's what I was wondering, what the beep sound was. Sorry, I'm just unused to.
I feel the same way in Zoom, so.
Yeah.
So I understand. I raised my hand because I think I might be in the best position to just give a quick update. And Jeff, I don't know if you've followed other stuff on the mailing list, but there was some discussion on like redoing the footer entirely in flat buffer potentially. I don't know if that would solve your concerns. I had actually am from last sync to follow up with Alkis on it, and it turns out he was I think on vacation, so I will follow up again to see if made progress. The other thing related to encodings, there's another encoding or compression thing that somebody's interested in getting in, and I also had an action item to write up a little bit more details about kind of what requirements and how I move forward there. I actually got some time to do it, so I have a draft and I will share it out tonight, and it's going to be somewhat incomplete, but hopefully it's a good place for discussion starters and see if we can kind of coalesce as a community on like how we push these things through. Yep. On the
For the footer question, since we're on that topic, if somebody could just kind of recap and frame what they see as the issue, because I think that there are probably a lot of new people, and I know that there's been some discussion on the mailing list, but just so everybody has like a shared understanding of like, hey, why are we talking about footers here?
I can give that a go unless somebody else feels strongly about it. So no, okay.
I think you can go. Yeah, I'll add details if I think something to add. But
yeah. So there's kind of the main issue with the footer is I think parsing it can be slow, especially in the case when you have a lot of columns or a lot of metadata in general, right? And there's some fundamental engineering improvements that can like probably speed up at least the reference implementation of like thrift parsing. I think the Rust folks kind of prototype some of that stuff, but it's still significantly slower when your bottleneck is just trying to read it and then read additional data. So there were a few proposals on like how we can maybe move forward with this. There was kind of trying to decompose the thrift into like more independent structures, which didn't seem super favorable. And Alkis, who's an engineer here at Databricks, started prototyping using flat buffers to remove the parsing speed. The other issue with footers in general is introducing a new footer format is a breaking change. So the other thing that kind of has been worked on in the community is formalizing how we can have write both a new footer and old footer and let new readers take advantage of the new footer when possible. And that has kind of been ratified. It's essentially a hack on top of thrift stuff. Yep, Daniel.
Yeah, just to kind of clarify or dig in a little bit about the actual performance issues with the footer. My assumption is that it's related to the column statistics primarily, right? Or is there other metadata? Because like you kind of have two areas that can grow, like the schema representation itself, which you have to materialize to, identify whether the column exists in the table and find out where it lives. But then you also have the statistics that go along with that, and that's all bundled together, and you have to read it regardless of number of columns that you're trying to project. You have to process that whole thing. So that is that right?
Yeah, columns. Yes.
Yeah, the other requirement, that's one of the reasons to pick flat buffer or to split in multiple structures, was to be able to read a subset of the column metadata while not having to deserialize the others, right? Like which the current Swift model doesn't really allow, when flat buffer does allow to skip to only the columns you care about.
Yeah. Do we know, has anybody who is looking into this looked at what the cost is on like the schema side versus the stats and other structures? Because like one of the challenges, of course, for backward compatibility is being able to parse that footer for at least the schema information.
Yeah, and so the approach, so I'm pretty sure, I remember I need to go back. I think there were some numbers published on like where the hotspots were in the parsing times. The way of like not decompose, like either way, you kind of like, I think the consensus that we were going towards was write the old footer and new footer for a long period of time, and whatever the new footer is would be greatly like would in such a way that it's backwards compatible, so you don't break old readers, and then new readers would just use the new footer, like not trying to decompose them or like just move the statistics out. Like I think we're going for like a revolutionary change instead of an evolutionary change here. Because like the problem is if you write statistics in some new place, then like old readers kind of get nerfed anyways because they can no longer do pruning.
But at least that's compatible, right? Is it better to be slow or be broken?
Right. Well, in the other ways, like as long as you're making a change, you can keep old readers reasonably performant and new readers much faster.
Adam, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that this is a problem we've encountered at G Research, and we've got some sort of hacky workarounds. I'm pretty sure we've experimented with disabling statistics, and that sort of had a marginal improvement on the footer passing speeds. And for us, we'd really like a solution where, like the flat buffers based approach, where you can only pass the schema of the columns that you actually want to read.
Yeah, if I remember, G Research's use case was also you have a lot of row groups, like thousands of row groups maybe also. So it kind of
compounds. Yeah, I think for most of our use cases, we want to read all the row groups, but a subset of the columns.
Yeah,
right.
So
Common kind of scenario.
It's still kind of like your reading time scales by number of row groups times number of columns.
Yeah.
So like I think that's where you're the
So
yeah, that sounds right.
I posted the PR that Alkis had posted with his experiments, right? So he's been looking at it in two ways. One is for those wide schemas, right, the ability to get only the subset of deserialize only the subset of the footer you're interested in. But second, he also did a pass kind of looking at all the metadata and trying to make everything more compact in general. So, and the goal is to really, for wide schemas that have a lot of columns, to have more compact metadata. So one of the things he was trying to do was also trying to have a critical view on what's needed and what's not needed in the metadata footer and store it in a more compact way. And things like, we do already row groups need to be able to be that big, and can we put 10 upper bound and use smaller integers and things like that, right? I think the angle. So we stayed a bit. I feel like we stalled a little bit. So I know there's been a lot of validation. Alkis has been trying to actually validate his assumption on real data from the Databricks customers, right? Trying out the model. So obviously this is all private experimentation because we don't want to. This is all on private data, but I think it'd be really interesting to get to the bottom of some of those assumptions and see if we're okay, right? Like there's a bit of the mechanism for enabling a new format and having flat buffer, and then there's the concern of making the metadata itself more tight, right? And it's kind of having throwing out things that we consider not useful.
Yeah, I think so. Jeff, I don't know if I think we've probably maybe recapped a lot of this context. I don't know if it addresses your concerns, or are there other things you wanted to raise or talk about?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of in line with what the direction we were hoping to go with this as well. Flat buffers were kind of what I was going to suggest for this. I didn't know it was already in progress, but glad we're going in the same direction.
I think it'd be great, right? Like right now, Alkis has kind of been driving that on his own. Like a few of us gave opinions on things, but it'd be great, to have someone to help, and we can validate this because obviously, once we change the footer, we're not going to do that very too often. This kind of a disruptive thing that everybody has to integrate with. So we want to make sure we have a good way to validate that we're making these good decisions, right?
Yeah, we would definitely want to be involved in the process of making sure it's the right design, providing feedback, etc.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so we need to be able to have a discussion with Alkis, I guess, and when he's back from his vacation.
Yeah, I think he might be back this week. I'll try pinging him again to see.
Yeah, and possibly there can be also like a separate meeting if people want to meet to specifically work on that. That could be an option as well. Okay, any other question on that, or do we want to talk about the numeric encoding discussion?
I just want to say I want to involve also to, if I can, for this future discussion.
Yeah, I think the best is probably, so of course I'm going to post the notes about that in the mailing list after the meeting, but we could have an email thread like to kind of summarize, like interest, like show if there's a subgroup that was specifically interested in working on that. We had the PR from Alkis. I'm not sure I don't remember if we had an issue to track like the conversation. I'll get to, we had a doc, right, with a spec of their requirements for the new footer. Micah, you had collected some of the requirements right in the doc. So we need some kind of artifact that serves as consensus driving on getting to progress on the footer.
Yeah, I'm not sure we need to go back. I don't think we had requirements specifically on the footer. I think there was just a bunch of like proposals out there, and it seemed people were willing to coalesce around flat buffers, and that's kind of just been slow. Can't get back into the community, and I don't know exactly what the status is even internally. So. Right.
Oh yeah, the document was about like generally all the things that we wanted to improve in the Parquet format, and that included the footer. Yeah. Thank you, Rogue, for sharing.
There was also a more specific one for flat buffers. I'll try to find it, but it was way smaller.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be important. Maybe someone start a thread or something like we should like finish capturing the requirement, and Alkis put in this PR some of his experiment and some of his assumption. It's on commit per commit things he tried out, and why on making the metadata more compact. But I think we need to get to a point where we can decide which trade-off we want versus not, right? I think some of them were restricting the size of certain subset of the Parquet format, because that way you could use fewer bytes to represent the offsets. Okay. So on that, yes, new numeric encoding. So you mentioned that, Jeff. I think, yes, I think people in the Parquet community want better numeric encoding, and we had a few conversations on candidates, and Micah alluded to that he's working on a document. One thing we're missing is a good process, like a formal process on how we adopt a new encoding or a new compression scheme. And the goal being, we want to adopt new things, but we don't want to add too many encodings, right? So we want to have a process to pick the one or few new encodings we're going to add, and then everybody is going to agree to implement. Like obviously in this meeting, we have Snowflake, we have BigQuery, we have Databricks. So this is a good crowd to agree that we're going to build a thing and make sure we all use it. But there's an agreement that we should add only a few of those. So therefore, we need a good process to evaluate and make decisions on the trade-off between complexity of adding too many things to the format versus adding the good few encodings that are going to be helping everybody on that. So that's kind of the general position. So Micah has a draft in progress. And I don't know, we're interested to hear what you think is important since you were talking about new numeric encodings.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we want faster encoding that has, I guess, like right now we see a lot of data that's gzipped or whatever. It's super slow. We want something that's faster, like a lighter weight thing. Like we could use just bit packing or P4 or there's like the fast lanes format. I'm sure people have seen that as well. Just something kind of in that vein that's going to get decent compression, but a lot better performance, decoding performance.
I'm curious, have you looked at the delta encoding that's already in the spec and
Delta bitpack?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of external data doesn't use that. We're not sure why. Or I guess maybe self knows why.
Yeah,
But
a lot of external data. I think until recently or even now, Spark vectorized reader was not even correctly working with delta bitpack encoding. We like delta bitpack encoding over plain plus zip plus CSTD or plain plus any other compression because the decoding speed is better, and then we can somewhat vectorize it as well, but it's not widely supported. And compared to algorithms like simple bitpacking or P4, decoding speed is a lot slower.
Yeah, so I think the historical context here is there's a whole bunch of encodings that are called V2 encodings, which people are not really using in practice because of a long time unsupported, and it's still some lack of support there, which is the other part of adding new encodings. We want to make sure that there's a process to actually get people using them, and we've had some discussions there in general, but the issue is kind of compatibility, right? Any new encoding that we introduce, there needs to be a lead time for it to funnel through all the different applications of Parquet. Yep, right.
I agree with the assertion that there's a compatibility issue. We never formally adopted V2. So we never told the community, hey, this is something that you need to support. So that's one thing, is making sure that we actually adopt the standards that we build. The second thing that I think holds up those codecs is that we never really figured out how and when they were useful. So we put them out there, but we never had a heuristic defined for when do we actually use delta encoding versus something just plain encoding. We are probably at a point where we're getting leapfrogged on this, because some of the encodings that have been proposed automatically detect whether they should be using delta encoding, and at least the one that we were talking about the last time. So hopefully we can figure that out in a way that we can just use the same numeric encoding all the time and get good performance.
yeah, there's also approaches that kind of stack encodings, right? I don't know if y'all are familiar with the Better Blocks paper, but where they are kind of evaluating does delta help here, does bitpack help here, does RLE help here, kind of all in separate stages, and then apply them in the stages, and they got pretty good results from that as well. So I don't know if a kind of a stack encoding approach like that would be beneficial in Parquet as well.
Yeah, people have mentioned that as well. Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm talking about, is can we figure out a way of using all these techniques and figuring and basically have a way to determine which techniques are we applying for a given numeric column, and use them all automatically. If we can't do that, then we'll again be in this case where we could release the best encoding in the world and no one will ever turn it on because it has to be done by hand.
Yeah, but that's also a large amount of implementation concern, right? Right now, and we have kind of very simple heuristics, and I think most of the, at least in Better Blocks, they actually sample data, I think tried out a bunch of encodings and then just decided, okay, this is what we're going to use for the rest of the file, which kind of makes sense to me as a way to go about it. But
I think the P codec, or what was the other one called? It used a similar approach where it would automatically sample and have like blocks and stages and figure out what to apply.
Yeah, I think that one seemed a little slower than we were hoping. We were hoping for something faster than that. But maybe people have different requirements.
I think it's important to have encodings that optimize compression versus optimize decoding speed, and then let the engines choose between the two.
So
for us, we see decoding speed as one of the most important bottlenecks when we are processing data.
So would it be helpful for us to define like what we're trying to accomplish? I like the high level idea of these are the encodings for compression, these are the encodings for decoding speed, and having like a choice between two sort of at a table level or a file level, in addition to Micah's doc on how do we even introduce new encodings in a way that other people are going to adopt.
Yeah, I think from an API perspective, you definitely want to at least give some high-level maps like that, saying maximize compression or maximize decoding speed. There's also like maximal decoding speed is just plain encoding to some extent, but that's a size. So this is why compressors give like 1 to 9 settings, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. There's one defining how we have a fair and explicit mechanism to define how you evaluate things, and I think it probably implies also some of the vendors being able to test on real data, right, and to add their own information in there. And we need to do that also. I think people can volunteer on like implementing the evaluation on some of those things, and we should also make it fairly public, because I know some of the author of those encodings care about being able to contribute, and and they hope these things should get in. So we should make it sure that something is not excluded just because we didn't think about it, right? Or in this room, people were less aware of it, and we want to make sure people have the opportunity to help trying things out. I think the other thing that I know, like Andrew Lamb has talked about a couple of times, he would like to enable researchers to be able to experiment and make it easy to try things. So that's kind of a separate discussion. So next step, Micah, you're going to publish your document, and then we can start deciding more about discussing it. And in parallel, we can look at who wants to participate specifically for numeric encoding. So Jeff and sorry, what is your name? Selçuk? How do I pronounce your name?
Selçuk is perfect.
Selçuk, okay.
Yeah.
And Jeff and Selçuk, you work together, right? Yes. Yeah, is this something, are you like interested in contributing to evaluations of encoding and things like that? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that'd be nice. I think this is an important, I think we all agree that's an important gap in the spec. This is an important thing to add. And we need to figure out how to add it correctly.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'd love to help out.
Nice. So next step, yeah, Micah will publish a draft and we can all contribute to it. And then we can figure out like the practical implementation of it. Sounds good. Who else is interested? So we have
yeah, I guess I ask like one thing. Well, it's going to take any new encoding a while. Like, do we know what the known blockers are for like delta bitpacked encoding? Like, what engines currently don't support them? And like, is it worth a mini initiative to just like?
I think we should get rid of them.
Okay.
the delta in, well, I mean, the delta encoding is like, it's easy to apply deltas, but the actual encodings themselves are complicated and don't have very great results. Like I did a very simple like zigzag encode, then delta encode, and then use our standard RLE bin packing encoding, and that performed like a byte per value better on on the test data. And that was just a random file that I grabbed from a table at Netflix. So like, I don't think that those encodings are going to be good in the long term. So I would much rather like hop over that generation of codecs and find something that's going to be really good and encourage people to use that.
Yeah, we can always say, hey, we don't write those encodings anymore and leave around the reading code. And at least it simplifies a lot the picking the right encoding for the things once we have a better default for.
I think at this point, like just establishing what is kind of considered standard would be a really good thing, because we occasionally have people pop up, start producing those encodings, and then nothing can consume them. And they then have to go roll back those changes. So it's like, it's unclear what the current state of encoding support is, and just clarifying, because I think that they're like on the website, they're all listed. And there's no indication of whether they're supported, used, you know, deprecated.
Let's deprecate them.
Yeah, there's no PR like that. I think Gabor started to try to like document like minimum requirements for Parquet things that we never got over the finish line. But if there's consensus that we should try deprecating V2 stuff, I can try to drive that forward. At least.
And I think with people in this room, we have a good view of what people have in the wild, right? And we can have some measure of how much certain encodings are used or not. So I don't like, to me, it feels if we have like a working group on that, I don't know, it would be nice to have one from each of the 3 big vendors in this room, at least, right? Like we can have more because that's what kind of gives more weight to all it's going to be updated, right? From this, we can make sure we have implementation in the open source, and we can have implementation is the big vendors who have proprietary implementation of things. And then from that, we'll have a pretty good coverage on things.
Yeah, I will check on my site, you know, what the customers are using for the encoding when they provide their data. If we have that information, I can share that.
Yeah, I think like sometimes something like, what's the percentage of Parquet files you have that have each encoding in them, right? And that could be a really good indicator of what encodings don't need to be supported.
Yeah, exactly. We are a reader for BigQuery case, you know, we should be able to see that.
Okay. So yeah, so from that perspective, so Selchuk and Jeff, you're from Snowflake, right? Talat, you're from Google. Anybody from Databricks when they put their name in there, or don't speak all at once?
I will be there. I think Alkis might be the right person to drive this, but for now, I'm kind of ever present anyways, so I will.
Okay.
See what I can do to help.
Sounds good. And if there's anybody else who's not, you know, like it's not exclusive for those ones. Is there just the obvious elephants in the room? But other people, feel free to chime in. Okay. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, once Micah, you have published your draft, I think we can reignite this discussion on the mailing list, and the other people who are not present would be, I think, like Andrew Lamb in particular would be interested, and who else? Probably Antoine in the past had been interested. They can chime in. Okay.
I think one other thing we had kind of on the topic of encodings is also, I mean, it's similar, but it's similar topic, probably the same discussion. But as for like the string encoding, I think what is it like delta length byte array. We were hoping to get kind of a variant of that where we weren't passing the lengths through the general purpose compressor. But that's kind of probably similar vein to the other conversation as well.
Yeah. Also, the delta byte array, people have complained that it's not easy to parallelize when you decode. Which, to your earlier point, might be a problem. So I don't know if we want a variant of that encoding that is more amenable to parallelization.
Yeah. I mean, maybe adding something like FSST would really be what we would want anyway in the long run. I don't know if that's on the roadmap or.
Sorry, can you repeat FST?
FSST, Fast Static String Table, I think is what it stands for.
It was discussed.
Okay.
But it was discussed to be added, but no decision was made.
Yeah. So we had so in a previous meeting we also have the author of Picodec, I think, to argue that we should adopt Picodec. And so the conclusion of that discussion was we need to write down what's our process to accept new encodings, and which Mike has been working on. And so I think that's the gating thing, because we want to say yes to people who want to contribute new encodings, but at the same time, we want to not adopt. We want to adopt only a few. Right? So we need to have a good way to make that happen. Yeah, so the goal, once we have this process, I think then we can make decisions, right? And kind of move on those things and agree on adopting those encodings.
One quick question. So when deciding on the encodings, I think compression speed or the decompression speed or the compression ratios, but do we have some standardization on the data on which we evaluate those?
I think that will be part of that, of the document, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually the largest open question, and that I think we need more community input. I'm not open source data sets are a little bit hard to come by when I started looking into this. So like, New York City taxi is like a reasonable place for at least like one data set, but I think it doesn't like really have all the different variants of like what real data looks like. So
exactly, yeah.
So if you are aware of open source data sets, feel free to add them to the notes, or we can go from there.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, I think part of it can be open source data sets, right? Like everybody can access and reproduce the results, but there's probably also a part of private data set just as a sanity check on like bigger corpus, right? Like people can test against the data they have internally.
Exactly, because I think what I feel is, cardinality differences exist a lot between those open source databases versus real world. So these encodings might function differently on those.
Yeah, and it's a trade-off, right? Like a private data set, the problem is not everybody will be able to reproduce those things, right? Because, but they're more real world.
I think it's also important to test both sorted versions of the columns as well as randomized.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of V2 encodings kind of don't give a lot of flexibility on like delta bit pack or whatever. they kind of make assumptions that, you know, are suboptimal in some cases, and I think having both in the input data set will help us not make that mistake in the future.
Yeah, the process for adding the V2 encodings was less thought through. I'm going to blame them on 15 years younger me.
Oh.
Yeah. Cool. But yeah, I think this is all great, really great conversation. So if we can, yeah, so Micah, you're going to publish your draft, and then we can add all those concerns in there and define a good process, right, to validate and accept those new encoding and implement. Cool. Anything else? Otherwise, we can wrap up.
I think there were. What did we need to talk any more about? Just general types stuff, or like is everybody? Was there any more stats to share beyond what Ryan had?
Yeah. So type. Was there anything else in the geotypes and variant that we talked about? Nope. Was there something you wanted to talk about specifically, or?
Yeah, I just lots of people here. Lots of people here were here for types. So
Yeah, sorry, I assumed the updates on geotypes was it, but yeah, please chime in now if you want. If there's another type or other things you cared about.
I actually talked with the Micah about increasing the decimal precision, but you know, he suggests me to use give the proposal for iceberg, because basically it's iceberg limitation. But
yeah, I mean, I think what you wanted to, like, right now Parquet does not specify maximum precision on decimals, and I thought tended, but iceberg does. So, but yeah, that's discussion with iceberg community, I think.
Yeah, next week I will propose that.
Yeah. Also, last time we talked about interval types, right? And I had opened like a long time ago a proposal to make the interval times closer to the SQL spec in Parquet, and someone wanted to get that all the way, but I don't know where it's at.
He mentioned that he wasn't going to have time to work on it.
I wasn't gonna.
So we'll have to find someone else to put that in. Maybe it will be me. I don't know. We'll see.
Nice.
We're also missing logical types for interval, right? Like we have a converted type, but nobody introduced a logical type for it.
I think that was intentional.
Yeah, we want to start getting rid of the converted type and make the logical types a lot more sane and match the SQL spec.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing.
Yeah. Vincent, what do you want to please chime in?
Oh yeah, just a quick question. I'm just curious, if there's any plan for Parquet to support integer 128, or we have to sort of wait for Arrow to support that first.
I think it's independent from Arrow. As a data type, I think it's reasonable to support int 128, but like probably need a proposal for what that looks like. I mean, the other alternative would be to like use decimal at just decimal whatever the right precision is there. It's
yeah, exactly. I thought about that actually last week. But for my case, it's not very intuitive just using that and interpret that as a higher precision of timestamp. But it's an option, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe making like a proposal of like what you want to do and like what you want to have happen in Parquet might make sense. But I don't think there's anybody else working on it 128 support the library.
Sounds great. Do you have a place that I can go to make a proposal somewhere?
It's generally like a Google Doc emailed to the developer mailing list.
I can help for that, Vincent.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
You could update a Jira issue if you want to go with it to anchor it somewhere. But yeah, basically a Google Doc is convenient for commenting on it on the mailing list.
I thought we migrated to GitHub issues. Yes.
Isn't that what I said? Sorry.
You said Jira.
Oh, yeah.
GitHub issues. Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Also making sure that doc covers what you're trying to accomplish. So if you're trying to add a new primitive type that has numeric encodings versus just making a logical type on top of like a byte buffer, those are really important pieces of information for us to consider the proposal.
Yeah, I guess it changes the statistics mainly, right? That's kind of the main thing, that defining a type.
Well, also introducing encodings for it, we would need to make sure that all of the numeric encodings have support for, integers that wide.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay. We are at time. Thank you all, and see you next time. And yeah, this new format is working. I'm going to delete the old invite and tell that you'll post. We can coordinate on, you post on the YouTube channel. Oh, by the way, you all recorded. It goes on the YouTube channel. And yeah, and I'll post the notes. Maybe
I will also post the notes. But you definitely can post the notes, and this Gemini ones we will see. How the quality is. Is it good or bad?
Yeah, you can always post them and say, hey, these are the Gemini notes, and we can see the difference.
I think they actually automatically get added to the meeting notice. So if they're transcribing and doing the notes, it'll actually get put on the meeting notice for this particular meeting.
Yes.
So you can go back to it.
Yeah, so maybe I need to migrate to the other, because I'm using the old doc from the previous meeting. Anyway, we'll figure it out.
It's just the summary of the conversation and everything, so we can keep the doc for agenda setting and things like that. But just the transcription and summary will be attached to this particular meeting notice.
Okay, that works. Okay, we'll see how it goes. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.